Hello and welcome everyone. This is the Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro and it's actually the flagship of the last 5 or 6 smartphones that Xiaomi has launched this year. Well, they've done something different. They packed a lot of specs in this smartphone, but it comes with a hefty price. It's actually almost 1,000 euros, $1,000 if you live in the US, and it's almost the same price as the Oneplus 8 Pro. Though it has almost the same specifications. Yes, almost. The Xiaomi Mi 10 comes in a really black box, and of course you see right here it comes in a 5G version. Now, if I know right, the 5G version for the Snapdragon 865 CPU is actually the X55 modem, and it's one of the best. Let's face it. So let's start with the unboxing. And inside you're going to find a cardboard cover, and inside of it there has to be a case. And yes, there is a case. Also some manuals and one small handy dandy USB-C to jack adapter. Jack is not dead, not yet. And they delivered this adapter because if you see right here on the box, it says high-res audio. I don't know what high-res audio means for a digital output, but we'll have to see. So the cover is actually a TPU soft shell. Actually, it's kind of hard. Designed by Xiaomi, it says right here. I can appreciate the fact that the edges are rounder and a little bit bigger than the smartphone, so it will offer you some protection. My advice, as always, keep your smartphone in a case at least for the first week since you bought it, because you're not used to the size, the shape or the weight, and you're most definitely going to drop it. So, the smartphone, Mi 10 Pro. Nice. There's a lot of cameras on the smartphone. We have an USB to USB Type-C cable for charging. Remember to keep this cable, because only with that cable you're going to be able to use this huge charger. This is a 65 watt charger, and no, it's not going to charge your smartphone to 65 watts. It's going to only use 50 watts. I understand that there's some problem with the battery, not problem per se like Samsung has any problems, but well, it's going to use just 50 watts for charging. Maybe it's not tested enough for 65 watts. Definitely this is one of the smartphones that it's going to charge in, I don't know, from 0 to 80% in less than half an hour. I'm gonna keep this here because I really want to try the charging. And let's see the smartphone. Nice. The first thing that comes to mind is, hell yeah, no more fingerprints on the back, because it has this matte finish, and I like it. Actually, it's kind of grippy. See? No more fingerprints. That's a good thing. Boy, those are a lot of cameras. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 cameras and some sensors right here on top of the last one. And also a dual LED flash. Let's see how the phone fits in the case. Yes. Very nice. This is how it's supposed to be. These edges right here are going to protect your display even when you're putting your phone face down on the table. This is not going to scratch. So what's special about this smartphone? Well, first of all, the cameras. The cameras, this is the first, actually this is not the first, this is the second 108 megapixel sensor that you will see on a Xiaomi smartphone. The first one was the Xiaomi Note 10 Pro, which is actually not so powerful. That's interesting. You have the Pro version of the main device, the Xiaomi Mi 10, and the Note is the second one in performance, or the third one, I think, because you also have a Xiaomi Mi 10. This is the second one. So let's see. Full sensor, 108 megapixels. Here we have a 12 megapixel sensors with a telephoto lens, a 50mm, and a 5 megapixel sensors, and then a 20 megapixel sensor for the ultra wide camera. And on the front, of course, another 20 megapixel sensors for the in-display camera. Actually, it's quite small right there. I think you're going to miss it very often if the UI is very well designed. First of all, we have a huge AMOLED display. This is a 6.67 inches with a almost 90% screen to body ratio. The resolution doesn't come out as much as a Samsung Galaxy S20. It's not a 3.2K display. It's actually a Full HD Plus. And that doesn't bother me at all, because on my daily use, I use a Oneplus 7 Pro, and I also keep it at the same resolution, a Full HD Plus, because it helps with the battery and also it makes the phone move a lot faster. You already have the option to increase text size. Not now. Choose your region. Okay, I'm gonna switch to Romania. By the way, if you're watching this channel for the first time, yes, we are based in Romania. And no, this is not a 5G network, just a 5 gigahertz network. The display is covered in Gorilla Glass 5 and it's actually pretty round. I don't think I'm going to miss the display when I switch over from this phone, because I don't like a very round edge display. It's almost, I don't know, a third of the dimensions. Not very impressed with it. There is going to be some glare when you're watching movies. What makes this display special is the fact that it's going to support HDR10+ and also a 90 Hz refresh rate. No, it doesn't go as far as 120 Hz, but hey, you still have a more fluid display refresh rate than other smartphones. The main and the only configuration for this phone is a Snapdragon 865 CPU. It's the fastest one yet. It's the only one that supports 5G with the X55 modem. And yes, it's on par with the other smartphones. Let's say the Samsung Galaxy S20, 20 Plus, 20 Ultra, the OnePlus 8 Pro. It's going to offer the same specifications and power as those other phones. This is an interesting thing. You're going to find here on the first page, they are going to allow you to choose your search provider. I would normally choose Google, but DuckDuckGo is actually a pretty good option. Info.com is actually not usable, and Privacy Wall, I never heard of it. I think I'm going to go with Google, just this time, because I have all my passwords and settings over there. Google Drive, YouTube Music, Google Duo, Google Photos, okay. Let's say I need them, but I don't. But let's say I need them. Actually, Google Drive, I'm using it, so it's a good feature over there. So this is what I was afraid of. You have to set up a new account. You can skip this part, but it would be helpful to locate your phone. The Xiaomi Mi option for recovering your phone is actually pretty good. You cannot unlock your phone if you don't introduce the password for your Mi account. I think that's a good idea. But also, if you use Google, you might not want to use two options for finding your phone. Don't use Xiaomi Cloud. No, I don't want a backup. It has a fingerprint reader and it's actually on the display, under the display. Remember as passport. Okay. As I can see, this is actually the first generation of in-screen fingerprint scanners, and it's really slow. You gotta tap it like 20 times until it recognizes your password. There's a small trick for this. If you want your smartphone to recognize your password better, you can actually set up the same finger 2 times. So that makes it a little bit more sensitive. The first thing I notice, I don't like the camera bump. I really don't like the camera bump. It's actually so big that when you're putting it on the table, it sits like this. I don't like it. I usually use my phone on the table like this when I write a message. It's actually a little faster than if I keep it on my hand. And I cannot do this with this phone unless I might be able to use it with a case. Yes, that is correct. The case helps a lot. And as I can see, the display comes already with a 90 Hz refresh rate. And that's interesting. Let's see. Security status, display settings. Yes, it already comes out of the box with a refresh rate set to 90 Hz, which is a good thing. But if you want to save some battery, you can switch to 60 Hz, which I actually don't recommend after 1 month of using a smartphone with a 90 Hz refresh rate. So let's talk about the specs and the performance. I already have another Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro right here, which I've tested a lot these days, and the Geekbench looks like this. It's a 904 points for the single core and almost 3,471 points for the multi-core. And actually this is almost the same score as the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra and the Oneplus 8 Pro. So more specs for this phone. It comes in 3 versions. It actually has an 8GB version and 256GB of storage, which is this model. And it also comes with 12GB of DDR5 memory and 256GB of storage and a 512 version. So if you have the money to go there, you might want to opt for the beefier version. This version starts at $949, but for only $50 extra, you can get the version with 12GB of RAM. And that is a very good thing. If you think about what other companies are offering for $50, you might just get nothing. I mean, for other smartphones, to increase the storage from 256 to 512, you're almost going to pay at least $200. And that's a lot. In terms of connectivity, you have everything. The X55 from Qualcomm is the best chipset around for 5G. It also has Wi-Fi 6. This phone is ready to connect to any Wi-Fi 6 router if you have something like that. But keep in mind, the laptops that use Wi-Fi 6 are actually pretty scarce. Now, the battery on the Mi 10 Pro is actually pretty big. Not as big as the competitors, it's only 4,500 mAh, but it charges really quickly. And I'm going to show you. I'm actually going to use the cable that's included. Keep in mind, you have to use this cable because I think this is a 5 amp cable, so you might want to keep it close. And with the charger, let's see. This one has 51%, this is like 40% battery. Quick charge, charge turbo. It's a very similar animation as the Oppo and of course the Huawei smartphones. And yes, I think it's going to charge at least 80% of my battery in less than half an hour. In terms of charging, is actually one of the first Xiaomi smartphones that supports wireless charging with 30 watts. The only other smartphone that does this is the OnePlus 8 Pro, which I don't have right here, but I'll tell you my impressions after I get my hands on a wireless charger from Xiaomi. And of course, like any other top smartphone, it also has wireless reverse charging. You just have to get in the menu right here and choose reverse wireless charging. You can put another smartphone on the back of it and you can use wireless reverse charging also for headphones or Bluetooth headphones. You might want to charge them on the back on the smartphone when you're away and you don't have access to a battery pack. So let's talk about the cameras. As I said, this is one of the biggest sensors. It's not the first time Xiaomi has chosen to use a 108 megapixel sensors, which I know it comes from Samsung. Does it have the power of a Samsung smartphone? Not quite, because the software and the implementation is actually different. So the main sensor you're going to use for the normal photos and of course the portrait photos and the landscape. The 12 megapixel sensor it used for telephoto, and it's actually a 2x zoom, no more than that. You don't have 10x or 5x or 100x, only if you use a hybrid zoom. But hey, right here on the camera, it's a small sensor that's actually a laser focusing sensor. It helps with the focus and adjusting the distance for the portrait mode. And last but not least, this is the 5 megapixel upscaled to 8 megapixel, the optical zoom sensor. It actually has a 5x optical zoom, and we're going to test it right now. So this is a normal photo taken with the 1x zoom on this table. This is a 2x zoom. This is actually a photo I've taken of my colleague a few days ago. And guess what? This is the 4K recording option. Although it has an 8K recording in 25 frames per second, and I was very impressed. It actually moves and feels like an 8K, and it also has stabilization. This is the stabilization with the 8K video. And you can also zoom while recording video. It's actually a 6x maximum zoom. The picture quality looks pretty decent, although there were really almost perfect conditions outside, but I'm pretty impressed. We're going to test this phone a lot more. Let's see, we have another photo of my colleague. This is the portrait mode, and I gotta say, it manages to keep a perfect score in terms of separating the subject from the foreground. Yes, it looks a lot better. Yes, of course, it does have a little bit of beautification on, even though you're going to want to turn it off. This is a photo taken with a 5G camera. This is the 108 megapixel preview. And as you can see, wow, you can actually zoom a lot in this photo, and you won't get so much noise. This is the version that is going to be downscaled to almost 20 megapixels with software, and as you can see, it's more brighter than the other one. This one is a lot dark because it uses the same sensor, but it's going to use all of the pixels for clarity, not for light. But the light in this one is a lot more natural because it uses the pixels for increasing the light sensitivity. This is actually the wide version of the camera, and yes, it looks very good. And these are some small details taken with the macro camera, I think. A lot of good details on the grass. Yes, the color is actually very good. So, we're going to do some more testing with the smartphone and come back with a full review after we've used it for at least 2 or 3 weeks. I'm going to put a 5G SIM inside and see what it has to offer and if it's worth the almost $1,000 price. I think it does, but does it have anything special in comparison with the OnePlus 8 Pro or the Samsung Galaxy S20? Let's say Plus. You cannot compare it to the Ultra because the Ultra is a lot more expensive. So this is our unboxing and first contact with the Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro. I'm going to come back with a video in 3 or 4 weeks, and we'll see you then. Until then, my name is Radu, and if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing if you want to see all of the new smartphones reviewed here. And also check out my colleague Marianne on this channel, who's done a lot of cool stuff with some cars a while back. That's it for today. See you in the next one.